Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We've got more crypto news to go over today, and let's go ahead and just start by saying that it is nice to see we're bouncing back just a little bit here. We'll start with the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. This is now back to double digits. We came up just a tiny bit, sitting at 12 while I'm recording the video. That's still extreme fear territory, which is not great, but at least we're starting to move up a little bit. And when we take a look at the price movement, yes, we're up 2.31% on the day for Bitcoin. You can actually see as we zoom in here, as I have been referencing for quite a long time, we've got the Fibonacci retracement zones sitting there at $63,200. We did actually get rejected as it tried to break above that. So pulled down just a tiny bit, sitting at $62,863. We actually had an initial point here starting off at 61,459. So a fairly decent move going on for the day, especially when you take into consideration that the volume itself is quite lackluster. It's very low in comparison to previous days. In fact, I would say that with where we're at right now, we might be moving on track to having less than even yesterday, June 10th, that of June 8th. I could see us possibly matching right around June 7th, unless there's some major influences that take place. So, for example, what's going on between the United States and Iran has been escalating. There might be some major attacks that will happen later today, and that might have an impact. But I think people are not so much getting surprised by this stuff and letting it scare them. It's just kind of like, oh, another day of that? Okay. But we'll have to see how this plays out. We do have it moving a bit sideways here, so I would not be surprised if it continues to try and hug pretty close to the $63,200 level. And so with that, you also see that the Bollinger Band is still quite wide. Let's go ahead and move on to the next bit of news. So we're going to go ahead and give you some news for Ripple. Ripple posted on their official Twitter account, Ripple and Bitso are expanding their long-standing payments partnership. Bitso's regulated MXN-backed stablecoin, MXNB, will be issued on XRPL and integrated into Ripple's payments on DEX infrastructure, supporting enterprise stablecoin settlement across Latin America. Together, RLUSD and MXNB bring regulated USD and MXN liquidity to XRPL's permissioned DEX, helping enable real-world enterprise payment flows. And then they provide a link for you guys to be able to check out there. Some additional news. Japan advances bill to reclassify cryptocurrencies as financial products and cut taxes from 55% to 20%. And that includes XRP, which is some really great news. And then from Senator Cynthia Lummis, this is gaining a lot of attention. This was posted not too long ago. The Clarity Act draws a clear line between a digital asset that are securities and those that are commodities. We've needed that line for a decade. But I'm also going to agree with the people that are in the comments here. What's the date? When is it going to get done? Just tweeting about it, not really having it finish up. But this is still trying to be optimistic about all of it. And up next, the Clarity Act is closer to the finish line than ever. So first off, passed the House, 294 to 134. That is a significant milestone. Cleared the Senate Banking Committee 15 to 9 with bipartisan support. Now on the Senate calendar for a floor vote. The window is open now. Passed the Clarity Act. There's several different reports that have come out. Let's go ahead and go over these. So first off, May PPI inflation surges to 6.5%. That's above expectations of 6.4%. And the highest levels since November of 2022. Core PPI inflation came in at 4.9%. That's in line with April's revised levels. PPI inflation is now at pandemic stimulus levels, and the odds of rate hikes continue to rise. In addition to that, U.S. initial jobless claims, what was expected was 219,000. Well, we actually got 229,000. So that's not great. Ripple and Bitso are bringing MXNB, a Mexican peso-backed stablecoin, the XRP ledger. And Flare founder, this is really interesting. So this was posted, and then Brad Garlinghouse chimed in. All he said was true, and this has gotten thousands of likes, a massive amount of engagement. So let's go ahead and read through it. Flare founder Hugo Filion just said it out loud. XRP and Ripple were accused of being the banker coin. Now everyone in the entire industry is desperate to be the banker coin. They mocked the vision, now they're copying it. And that's when Brad chimed in and said, true. I would really love to see XRP get integrated even more with the banking system. I think it's making some nice steps forward. Up next, Ripple makes big AI play with XRP Ledger. Ripple has launched the XRP Ledger AI Starter Kit, giving developers new tools to build agentic payment applications on the XRP Ledger. The toolkit supports X402 powered payments using XRP and RLUSD. The launch includes wallet tools, payment integrations, and documentation access. And from smoke, yes, Ripple is integrated with DBS Bank, and the XRP Ledger can tokenize gold. Gold, you're looking at a $35 trillion industry. So this is obviously a very big deal. XRP becomes the only US spot crypto ETF category to post net inflows on June 10th, taking in $1.19 million, while Bitcoin funds bleed $213.85 million, and Ethereum funds shed $35.59 million. Ripple lets AI agents pay with XRP and RLUSD via the X402, as I mentioned. And from Evernorth, check this out. Total tokenized real-world assets on the XRP network reached $4.18 billion market cap last month, up roughly 28 times in 12 months. So here's what's inside the numbers. This content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice. Digital assets involve risk, including potential loss of principal. So, it's a diversified institutional stack, tokenized US Treasuries, energy-backed infrastructure assets, tokenized diamonds, and tokenized senior credit notes. Multi-asset, multi-issuer, real counterparties. And May 6th, JP Morgan, MasterCard, Ondo, and Ripple publicly announced the completion of the first live cross-border redemption of a tokenized US Treasury fund. It settled in under 5 seconds. That's the infrastructure changing. A year ago, this number was $147 million, and now $147 million has gone to $4.18 billion in just 12 months. And institutional tokenization of real-world assets is accelerating. One of the open questions is which settlement infrastructure institutions will adopt. The $4 billion and how fast it got there is part of that answer forming. GitHub source code confirms XRP support in new Pax.crypto ISO 20022 framework. So ISO 20022 meet blockchain. This was recently created by an ISO 20022 specialist with 27 years of Swift experience, by the way. And XRP was not overlooked. Now, let's go ahead and move on and see what's the latest with the price movement for XRP. So let's go ahead and do a little side-by-side comparison here. We've got XRP. This is what's going on with Bitcoin. So we've got green on the day. Last 2 days, we have red for both of them. But we actually see with Bitcoin, it's had 3 days back-to-back. There was one day that was a little bit green back here on June 8th for XRP. So not 100% correlated, but you guys can see it's very, very, very close. And XRP itself, at one point, it did make a climb up to about $1.12.5. It has since then dropped down. It's sitting at just above $1.11. If this drops down, we still have a little bit of wiggle room on the day itself, essentially getting started right above $1.10. It looks like it did close out yesterday just below $1.10, but it still has some wiggle room to move. And we go ahead and zoom out a tad bit. Bollinger Band still pretty wide. And we also see that it is still sitting underneath the midpoint of this Fibonacci retracement zone. So it's technically closer to the bottom area, which is around 86 cents. If this continues to drop, which we've been seeing a pretty consistent pattern. I mean, it consolidated here for quite a while, but then it dropped. Zoom out even more. It's been progressively working its way down since essentially July 22nd of last year. So it's been very brutal for nearly a year. I think it's got potentially enough sell pressure at this point to have shaken out all the weak hands, and possibly this is going to flip and start ripping a little bit. But I'm not a financial advisor, for one thing, and two, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world now that we didn't have even 1 year ago, and that leaves a lot of uncertainty. The ETFs are doing really well for XRP, so that's good news. And another thing is that you guys want to keep an eye on what's going on around $1.24, and then all the way up here at $1.40 for the Fibonacci retracement zone. And that's what I got for you guys. So thank you very much. You can check me out on Patreon if you want to show your support. I do appreciate it. I'm Crypto Atlas over there. You can also become a YouTube member. Thank you guys. Be safe, God bless, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.